Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and the guys are here today, as I like to call them, the gentlemen. Hello, Cameron Riley. How are you?
Good evening, Sybil. How's it going, Damon?
What's going on, man? Nice shirt.
Thank you very much. This is
Very artsy.
thank you. Yes, I'm going to make a habit of wearing all of my nice shirts that my lovely mother has gotten for me while I'm on the show.
Aw,
So
Okay.
we're
that's
slowly
sweet.
running out of time until we see a repeat. So
Okay, okay, all right, okay.
we got that.
Damon, where are we seeing you from?
I am off the coast of Puerto Rico, an area called Ponce or Ponce. On the Capital Jazz Cruise. A lot of people on here watch your show. I've
Oh,
had
nice.
several people, yeah, including the guy with the long name, something on the fun bus. I don't know, I forgot what it was, but he definitely approached me and said, "Yeah, I'm on here. And I talk to Sybil a lot, and I know he said Stephen Hill got mad at him when he said something about
Yeah.
how did he get shot." So yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we love
yep,
that. Absolutely. So
lots of Sybil people on here. Yeah,
please give my best to everybody there and thank them for participating in the little show. We appreciate that.
right.
How's
And while you're saying thank you for your contribution to my birthday video. Your statement was so heartfelt and warm and loving, and I definitely appreciate it. It made my day.
Well, I feel that way. It's very honest emotion that I felt and gave to you. So, and I so appreciate your participating and being with us every week. And I just appreciate your comedic
Yeah,
genius. So, what can I say?
thank you.
I'm a woman who speaks the truth. Hey,
Yes, look who's
oh,
here.
look at lovely. Hey, Juanita,
Hi, how are you?
how are
Yeah,
you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm
Now
having a fantastic voyage.
I know that's right, player. Now I know why you're so anxious to get off this little show. I'm not mad at you.
Yeah, we got a pretty decent cabin too. Look at that. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Okay.
All
And a
right.
balcony, I'm assuming, where things happen.
Hey, what happens on the boat stays on the boat.
Stays on the ship. There you go. There you go. All right, gentlemen. Cameron, we also want to mention that coming up this evening, we have two guests of yours, and they are related to the story you did. So we're going to hold off on doing that story until we have the what's going on section. And so to bring the connection around, okay?
All right.
If that's all right with you.
Sure.
All right, so let me talk a little bit about our what you need to know newsletter. This is our Monday through Friday newsletter. It is absolutely free. We'd love to have you subscribe along with watching the free YouTube and Facebook live show. But it is a show, it is a newsletter that just requires one thing. Just email us your name and your email address and send that information to sybilwilkes.com. Give us your name, your email address, and we'll have it in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. This is on me. So if you're looking at the newsletter and something doesn't quite match up, I will tell you that there was an editing screw up. And so looking at Janet Yellen, the first story in our newsletter today, has nothing to do with the headline. The headline is incorrect from a week ago or so. But it is about the debt crisis that is about to, we are about to hit the debt ceiling. The country is about to hit the debt ceiling, which is some 30 plus trillion dollars. And if the United States doesn't extend the debt level, then we could be in one, as my mom used to say, one mell of a hess. So this would be a situation that could be detrimental to all of us. And because it will affect the credit rating of the country, it will, and individuals as well. Those of us who have mortgages, those of us with credit card debt, all of these things. And it can also affect, if the Republicans have anything to do with it, because this is what they want to do, is to use cutting back on some of the programs that have been instituted or extended by the Biden administration. And that means Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, military pay, amongst other things, could affect, and all of these things severely affect a lot of Black people, as you might imagine. So Yellen is saying, I love the fact that her name is Yellen. Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary, is warning the country that if the Republicans don't get their act together and come to the table and make some sort of arrangement and agreement with the Democrats, we could be in a lot of trouble. And this is the day after tomorrow, as I said. And she said the government will be taking extraordinary measures to avoid default. But if we cannot avoid default, then we are going to have a big problem. So the debt ceiling, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury, is the total amount of money the United States government is authorized to borrow to meet its existing legal obligations. And as I said, that includes Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, tax refunds, and other payments, right? And in the case of the United States, that amount is $31.4 trillion. $31.4 trillion. And if Congress stalls and fails to extend, we could go into a crisis or a number of crises. And quickly, this will reduce the value, the quality or the value of the U.S.'s ability to borrow money and pay its debts. So as goes the country, if they get into debt and financial crisis, then so do Americans receiving payments, or those of us who are making payments on our individual businesses, such as credit card and mortgage payments. It could be quite disastrous and put us into a recession that another part of the government has been trying to keep us out of. And the prospect of a recession hangs even closer to us as a result of this. I don't want to be too dramatic because they probably will wait till the last minute and come to some sort of agreement. They do have a little wiggle room of a few months in order to make this agreement, but Yellen is putting it right here in the front pages of all of our news headlines in order to make people aware, and perhaps even call your congresspeople, and starting with the new Speaker of the House, who has a really, really small majority of people on his side, that quit screwing around. This is important, and let's make a deal. Let's extend the debt so that people can. And I know it doesn't make any sense, but if we don't, because we do want to put our country on strong financial footing, but if they don't extend the debt, it means a lot of financial problems, not only for this country and the way that they are able to get further debt and what it will cost the country, as well as what it'll cost us, because the credit rating will reflect poorly on the American public, and that also has to do with stocks and bonds and things like that. And it's not a good look on us, and it's not a good place for us to have to be.
Yeah, I mean, just want to make a point that we've all become hyper aware of this thing called the debt ceiling in the past about 2 or 3 administrations, but it wasn't always that big of a deal, and it shouldn't be. The way our country makes money is by borrowing more money to
right.
make money. All of the world's governments do that, and now it's become this partisan issue of where the government's money is spent, and it shouldn't be, because there are some essential programs that need to be ran, that need to be funded, such as payments out toward the Veteran Association. Joe Biden promised an increase of Social Security payments in proportion to inflation, but now that Republicans have control over the House, they want to enact their agenda on the way social programs and government programs are being funded, and that's just reckless and irresponsible with the spirit of the American people. Right.
And playing chicken with our money is not the way to do it. And of course, Republicans are trying to flex as much as they can because of this small majority that they have in the United States Congress, in the House. And it's not a good look on you, Kevin McCarthy, and you got to get a lot of those differing warring parties within your party to come together and not make an issue out of this. You're already making an issue out of the Biden papers, and that is something that President Biden has to deal with. But the fact that this is going on really does not make any sense, and it's not fair. And who says that life is fair? If life was fair, we would still have Barack Obama as a president, but not have to have gone through a previous administration. But it really is about doing the right thing. And truth be told, more of their constituents are going to be affected by this than the Democrats in many respects.
Oh, yeah.
And so that makes a big difference, I believe. Khameron, as I mentioned, we're going to come back and talk about your story and talking about Black student unions, and especially at your school, at University of Illinois, Chicago campus. Is it Chicago campus? UIC?
Illinois at Chicago, yes.
University of Illinois at Chicago. And talk about the Black student union and how all of this works with such a small Black population and things like that, with 2 members there. And
Black Student Coalition.
The Black Student Coalition.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll talk about that in our next segment. According to our coronavirus update, new U.S. government data suggests holiday gatherings did not spark the surges in respiratory diseases. That's good news for us, because we were being told that people who were not getting vaccinated, not getting the booster, if you will, had the possibility of extending and spreading coronavirus as a result of holiday gatherings and people, thinking we're done with this and being in small closed in conditions. I would send a lot of people, especially adult, elderly and small children, to the emergency rooms. But this it did not happen. And they said everything continues to decline. According to the CDC, who is tracking flu in the United States, RSV hospitalizations have been going down since November, and flu hospitalizations are down too. So that is very good news to have. Yes, on the social justice track, we have Coy Malone's story talking about Illinois paramedics who smothered a Black man to death. This happened in Springfield. 2 of the Illinois EMT workers who are white have been arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the death of 35-year-old Earl L. Moore, a Black man who died while in their care on December 18th, just before Christmas. Body camera footage shows Mr. Moore sweating profusely and then rolling off the bed onto the floor. His family members called 911 because he was hallucinating while he was detoxing. Shortly after the paramedics rolled in and arrived, one of the paramedics can be seen pulling him up by his arm, telling him to get up and quit acting stupid. This is what the EMTs told the patient, the Black man who was hallucinating while he was detoxing. One of the supervising officers can be heard trying to get him to stand up to go to the hospital, saying, "You're going to have to walk because we ain't carrying you. I am seriously not in the mood for this dumb ish today." All of this is on videotape. And so now, by not showing any compassion, by putting this man face down, it's just like with babies. You don't put babies on their stomachs for fear of them smothering. And that's exactly what they did to this 35-year-old Black man who was in a crisis. And the death is currently being investigated. But in the meantime, they have been arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the death of Earl Moore, a 35-year-old Black man. And not a good look for our state, fellas. The state of Illinois, this is Springfield, but still one that is distressing that emergency medical people are treating. It's enough when the police are mistreating people and their death occurs. But in this case, it's people who are there to save lives and to help people in a crisis moment. And now they are charged in the murder of this man.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate this has happened because that's what the activists have been calling for. Medical professionals and
Right.
mental health professionals to show up on scene versus police officers. And now trained medical professionals have created this atrocity, and it's very unfortunate. But at least this will send a message to those who have no compassion, you know. And I understand if you're on a job like this, and who knows if they've seen Earl many other times or whatever, but you still have to do your job properly with compassion and with professionality because you took an oath.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This is what you are trained to do, is to help save lives, not to end them, but to extend. And lastly, I do want to talk about the weekly column of Katrina M. Craft, our CBA, and her column talks about why your credit score is so important as interest rates rise. And that takes us back to the first story about the debt ceiling and doing something to correct that. All right, let's give ourselves a little bit more time here, guys, and let's move to what's really going on. And Khameron, Yolanda, if you can bring up Cameron's guest, and Khameron will make the introductions as we talk about an organization at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and talk about their organization.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
It is very nice to see you, and I sincerely thank
Could
you.
you take the sexiness out of your voice, Khameron, and just?
There was no sexy there at all.
Oh, okay,
You're fine.
okay,
You're
all
fine.
right, player.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I am. You all are here with me again for another joint venture in this movement, in this manner of collaboration. So thank you all very much for joining me. Sybil, Damon, you have the pleasure to be among Hanaya Thomas, president of the Black Student Coalition, UIC student and major in public policy, and a member of the UIC Honors College, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we have the Honorable, the Distinguished Jessica Oguru, Vice President of the Black Student Coalition, a junior in marketing with a concentration in social media and in innovation.
Well, thank you for welcoming. And actually, Jessica's lighting is probably why Khameron was speaking all in his sexy voice, because she got the little, the little
Got
lighting.
the mood lighting there in the corner.
Yeah.
Huh?
I'm trying to think, is it fuchsia? What would be that color behind her?
Khameron, would you, as a director, would you care to direct this conversation?
Yeah, gladly. You know, Hanaya and Jessica, we've seen the social landscape change on college campuses from a bit of a bird's eye view. But can you tell us what it's like being at what the United States considers one of the most diverse institutions across the entire country, and why that called for you all to create this uniter of Black student organizations across UIC proper?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because you think that with it being the most diverse, university in the country, or one of that, as a minority, you'd feel very comfortable and you feel like you'll see people that's like you and you can relate to. But it was kind of like quite the opposite. It was, I walked in and it's kind of hard to connect with students that look like me, which can be kind of difficult because being a college student in itself presents a lot of challenges. So just having that added element of feeling like you don't belong, it can be obviously really scary. So yeah, like just we don't have like a lot of Black student organizations, and with it being a minority serving institution, you think we have a lot of support for things that emphasize culture and togetherness based on your identity, but it's a bit more difficult than you think, for sure. I don't know, Jessica, you want to add to that?
Yeah, and I'd like to add on to that and say, like, there's definitely a disconnect with us being in a mostly Black city and not really seeing that equal representation at the university. So it is a diverse school in a sense. It's diverse for other minority groups.
In terms of the neighborhood, but not necessarily of the student body?
Yeah.
So the student body is diverse. It's just as it pertains to Black students, it's still a very small minority. It's about 7 to 8%. think it went down to 7%.
Yeah, if you're like a glass half empty or half full person at UIC, people like to say that it's 7% black or 7.5% black, and that's out of a student population of 30,000. And can you describe the role?
Oh, that's wait. Let me do my big girl math. 30,000 students, 7% is less than 3,000 students, and that's considered diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like it is diverse in a sense. You do see a lot of representation of different cultures. The thing is, you think you see a higher population of Black students considering where the school is located.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of Chicago. I'm sorry, Khameron. I just wanted to put numbers to that. So can you tell us how you all came together to form the Black student organization?
Yeah. So a little less than a year ago, I said, like, what can I do to change what I'm seeing? Because I noticed that, like, I had a lot of connections and resources on campus because I went out and I found them, and I was very proactive in that. But they're not as, like, in your face as you think. And with it being difficult to connect to Black students on campus, it's harder to find resources because you don't have as many people to talk to and be like, oh, like, you're involved in this, or, oh, like, you got connected with that. It's not really like that. So I'd be talking to my friends and I'd be like, hey, did you hear about that scholarship? Or did you see that email? And they're like, what are you talking about? So I'm like, how is that? Like, that's terrible. It's like so many things out there. It is resources out there for them, but a lot of students don't know about them. So I thought, okay, I'll make an organization that connects the resources that we do have so that it's easy for students to access them. So if, like, you just have this one place where you can just get directed anywhere you need, and just having someone to also advocate on your behalf. And as soon as literally I had the idea, I called Jessica and I was like, Jess, can you please help me put this together? Because I knew that she would be like the perfect other half to be able to make it into what it is.
Do you both come from organizing spirits or as organizers in high school? Where did this come from?
Jessica, I don't know if you want to start with this question.
Well, yeah, I can start off. I haven't necessarily been like an organizing spirit in high school, but I was involved in like different student orgs, not necessarily in an official role, but just assisting in anywhere I could. But I started getting more involved during my senior year in high school. Then I became like one of the community officers, basically, of one of my student orgs I was in. So I kind of had a little bit of background in like running the student organization. So I was it and help out.
As for myself, I didn't start getting involved in organizing until we all know how 2020 was. So I was going into my senior year of high school, and over the summer I went to a predominantly white high school, and I noticed that they didn't email the students like, hey, how are you doing in these hard times? George Floyd had been murdered. And I was just like, you guys aren't checking in. Like, we can't get it. How y'all doing? It's real rough out here. Like, are you safe in your neighborhoods? And I thought that I don't know, it just didn't sit right with me. So I had a friend, and we created like this Google form that said basically like, say how you feel. Like what do you want to say to our high school? And we got all the responses and created like this call to action and sat down with our president and principal of the school. And we're just like, hey, like, we need to change something. So that's kind of where that came from, because I realized like I really had a passion for speaking up for others and giving other people a platform and a voice.
Khameron, I don't want to take over this interview. I'm just very interested in these young women and how they came to this place. How did you come to meet them, Khameron?
Yeah, Anaya, Jessica, can you all just explain the very thorough canvassing effort, and just like the resource gathering that you all did in order to just rally others to your cause before the Black Student Coalition was even created? And how somehow you all made your all's way to me, and we've just been partners ever since.
Yeah. So there was an event called the Black Student Leadership Summit, and I was like, I gotta be there because all the people are gonna be there, and I got this idea, and I gotta connect everybody. So that was just like,
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I was just a very much a freshman in my role as a UIC employee, and I wanted to ally myself with students who are trying to do the work, trying to get things done. And a place called Black Leadership Summit seemed like the place to be.
Right. So I came early. Like as soon as it started, I was there, and I think I was the one of two students there at the beginning, and Cam was there, and we were just all talking, and he was just like, before we left, like, so it was a very long event. And before he left, he was just like, hey, if you guys need anything, here's my email. And he actually, like, I don't know if I reached out to him or he reached out to me first, but he actually replied and was followed up and was like, let's have lunch and talk about it. And since then, he's just been like a great support system on campus. And it's always nice to have someone that works for the university that you feel like is advocating on your behalf, because some people have your best interest, some people don't. So like, he's definitely been someone that I could trust.
When that event took place, eventually when it filled up, how many people actually attended?
Oh, geez. There were, at the Leadership Summit, saw over a few hundred folks. It was just kind of just like the executive membership of different student organizations across UIC. And they were just doing just like just kind of walking through which ways that they can be involved. And I was there doing some tabling on behalf of the Office of Community Collaboration, among a host of others. So there's a lot of students there.
Great.
How did you guys find UIC, or did UIC find you all?
Jess, I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, I never heard how you came to UIC, Jessica.
How I found UIC. UIC didn't find me. I was kind of hunting for a school. But basically, I moved from Nigeria when I was about 13 to Georgia at first. And I was in high school and middle school over there. And then my mom had moved up to Chicago during like around 2020 in the pandemic, because a lot of nurses, up in the north side. And she's a nurse. So she moved up to Chicago and was working. I probably go where my mom is, if I want to be in state anywhere. And Georgia wasn't looking like a good place for me to go to school because it was way too expensive. So I moved up to Chicago. I was looking out for schools, and I found UIC was like, it was a good value for the school. And then city, so I wasn't like in a city where it was far away. I just applied, and I loved the school how it was, and it seemed like a really big campus. That's what I really looked for. It feels like you're not crowded. And that's how I felt.
Anaya?
Oh yeah. So UIC was actually the only school that I applied to, which, looking back, really bold choice. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get in. But I just was like, this school is located in Chicago. I'm a policy student. I want to work in Chicago. I'll be able to meet the people that I'm going to be working with when I graduate from college. And they had a great policy program. So that's why I applied. And also, it was a pandemic. I really didn't feel like applying to a bunch of other schools. I was like, I know I want to go here. I'm just going to apply here. And now I'm here. So, and it all worked out. So it's great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Khameron has written a very lovely article, if I can call it lovely, Khameron, and talking about giving us a little bit of history, but also talking about the school itself and how you all, are working to make changes in this in the Black Student Coalition. What's your goal?
That's a loaded question. But my goal ultimately is to encourage conversations and understanding across all students, not just Black students, but all students. And I wanted to start with Black students because that would be the easiest. And I thought it was the most pressing as well, because like I said, we have Black student organizations, but I just feel like we need like more representation on campus. We need more students to see like there are people here for you. You're seen. There's people you can connect with. So that's where I wanted to start. But ultimately, I would love to be able to duplicate this model across different cultures, so that we're able to like come together and have each of those leaders say, all right, let's have a conversation. What issues are affecting your community and your culture? Like, what is your unique struggles on campus? What is your unique needs? And I feel like that's what not only the university lacks, but the world, we don't really understand what's impacting each other. So it's easy to have certain biases and not have empathy for one another, because we just don't understand like what each person is going through. So that would be the ultimate goal for sure.
And Jessica?
Yeah, I think one of my goals with us being in BSC, at the like a short-term goal, would just to be more of uniting like the campus itself, because everyone kind of feels very, distant. Also because it's a commuter school, so people just come in.
Mm-hmm.
But to like have people feel like they belong at the university, and then on a bigger scope, like and I was speaking on, like having us feel connected as people in general, and having different organizations, because this type of organization can be built up more than a university level. It could be
Mm-hmm.
at a level where it's like in a neighborhood, like how like what's affecting each person in the neighborhood, and having like meetings and discussing that, and everyone being on the same level and having updates about that. And it could be on a state level, like actually knowing what your mayor's up to and like actually connecting and seeing what's going on, and on the city level as well. So I feel like this is like a good organization as a template, and it can always build up.
And what's the future look like for you ladies once you get that University of Illinois degree? Where do you see yourselves going?
I'm studying public policy with a specialization in education policy. So I'm interested in education admin and also curriculum writing for organizations, specifically like nonprofit organizations. So soon after graduation, I see myself working for a nonprofit, particularly hopefully my mother's nonprofit that she'll be working on, because I would love to support her in that. But ultimately,
what is that?
So she actually has a magazine called Mind Blowing Magazine, and through that, it's a faith-based magazine. So she's then creating something called Faith in the City, where she's gonna like go in and share those resources to those who are like in prisons, to support them and give them hope and something to like look forward to while they're in prison. And so I would love to. So I'm just kind of helping her currently like in the startup of that, and I just want to continue to help her build that up.
That's nice, Jessica. What about you? Where do you go from here?
From here, I will go on to being a market research analyst, hopefully for Electronic Arts, which is a gaming company.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in them. And like,
we older people have heard of EA, yes.
Okay. But yeah, I'm very interested in working with them, especially in the Sims franchise, because I'm very passionate about the Sims. That's where I see myself.
Nice. Well, I love to talk to young people, and Khameron has done a great job of introducing us to some of his colleagues. And Hanai, I don't know if Khameron has used this line on you, but you remind me a lot of his sister, his younger sister. So, but the energy, the look, everything is very similar to Quinn. But I really appreciate your coming on, Khameron. Thank you for inviting these lovely young women and very progressive and active organizers. So thanks so much for joining us. I hope you all will come back again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Naya. We will debrief.
All right.
Thanks, ladies. All right, Khameron, you can go back to your regular voice now. Let's move to trending topics. I would have asked Damon about his dates, but he's had a dinner reservation. Let's talk about something that's very sad to me, and this happened in my backyard here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. A 14-year-old girl has been charged with murder in the shooting death of an 11-year-old boy in Dallas.
Oh, no. She
was charged with murder this week following the fatal shooting of the boy who was hit by a stray bullet. It appears that two teenage girls got into an argument in a parking lot of an apartment complex. One of the young girls went and retrieved a handgun and shot in the direction of the female that she was having the original argument with. However, the bullet struck the male juvenile bystander, an 11-year-old boy. He was transported to the hospital where he died from his injuries. The suspect initially ran from the location, but she was later taken into custody and charged. Police are not naming these young people because of their ages, 14 and 11. Wow. The fact that we're having like one of those, 315 fights, take off my earrings, and 315, we gonna duke it out. No, she went to get a handgun. She knew where to get it. She got it and she used it incorrectly, and in the end killed someone.
Oh, it's awful.
It is awful. You think about a 6-year-old boy. They said they checked his backpack because they had information in the Virginia school about what was happening, but he was able to shoot the teacher in the classroom. Now there's a video from a Ring camera of a 4-year-old boy wearing diapers, walking down the hallway of his apartment building, waving a loaded gun.
Oh no! Wow.
This, and the fact is that this country is run by the NRA. They have everyone has their hands in the pockets of the NRA. And that's why Second Amendment laws, like Khameron in the state of Illinois, they're taking the state to court tomorrow, suing against the selling the law to stop selling assault weapons in the state of Illinois.
Yeah, as far as they're concerned, the more sales, the better. But
and you can't. I know it's a constitutional right to own a gun, but not a gun of war. And not where you make it so easy for a 14-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old who isn't even able to use the bathroom correctly, but like a toddler. He's wearing a diaper and up and down.
Yeah, something is inherently wrong with that.
It's crazy. Here's something else that's going to be challenged in court. It hasn't gone through yet, but it gives one great hope perhaps for some of us, gives great hope for what's going on around the country. San Francisco's Reparations Committee has proposed paying each Black longtime resident $5 million each and granting total debt forgiveness due to the decades of systematic repression faced by the local Black community. The San Francisco African American Reparations Advisory Committee advises the city on developing a plan for reparations for its Black residents, released a draft report to address reparations, not for slavery, since California was not technically a slave state, but to address the public policies explicitly created to subjugate Black people in San Francisco by upholding and expanding the intent and legacy of chattel slavery. So the plan includes a long list of financial recommendations for Black San Franciscans, including a one-time lump sum payment of $5 million to each eligible individual. This would compensate the affected population for the decades of harms they have experienced and will redress the economic and opportunity losses that Black San Franciscans have endured collectively as a result. So check this out, Khameron. To be eligible for the program, the applicant must be 18 years old, identified as Black or African American on public documents for at least 10 years. They must also prove at least 2 of 8 additional criteria, choosing from a list that includes born in San Francisco between 1940 and 1996, proof of residency in San Francisco for at least 13 years, and personally or the direct descendant of someone incarcerated by the failed war on drugs. This is very progressive. And I know there are cities, there are states around the country that are not ready for this, but I really love this. I love that, reparations is being considered and a hefty sum too. When you consider $5 million each for these people that can prove this. It also calls on the city to supplement lower income recipients' income to reflect the average median income, or about $97,000 annually, for at least 250 years. What do you think, Khameron? Would you like to move to San Francisco right quick or turn back the clock?
Not really. I mean, this is San Francisco, LA, California really is essentially ran by Black women at every level. And, this type of progressive legislation is...
London Breed is the mayor there.
Yeah, I mean, it's what happens when you get people in those positions who are ready to do for us, by us type of work. And That's absolutely incredible. San Francisco's always been very forward thinking, and they're certainly setting the template and just setting the tone of the conversation for what reparations could look like. But it is America is long overdue for another groundbreaking economy shattering event. The last great one that we had was the black migration. And now I believe that the next one that we'll have is when the reparations just really starts coming through, whatever it is that looks like. And I'm very glad that California isn't ran by incrementalist people who believe that progressive policies are a form of reparations. That's just nonsense.
And we should remind people that it's not just the states. I know when the former city where I lived in Evanston, when I went to Northwestern, they are completing their reparations program. But House Democrats are pushing to establish a reparations committee at the federal level. And the great Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas and 52 House Democrats have proposed legislation last week seeking reparations and a national apology for slavery. Now, the conservatives have gone to the official black man of the Republican Party who became famous last week when his name was brought up to be voted upon as Speaker of the House. This is Byron Donalds of Florida. And he has slammed their $5 million reparations proposal, calling it patently unfair. He says the reparations proposal is a distraction to cover for the incompetence of local Democratic leadership. So they're getting a black man to respond to reparations for his people, and Fox News loves that stuff. So what can I say? Speaking of Republicans, two controversial Republicans in the House have gotten their committee assignments, and one of them is MTG. Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia and Paul Gosar of Arizona have been given their committee assignments for the new Congress after being booted from their committees by Democrats and some Republicans for their incendiary remarks during the former term. The House GOP Steering Committee on Tuesday agreed to place Greene on the House Homeland Security Committee, which has jurisdiction over the border and will likely play a role in potentially impeaching Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and they're getting ready for that. And Gosar got a seat on the House Committee on Natural Resources, where he previously served. The decisions were made unanimously by the steering panel and stocked with members who are close to and a part of the House GOP leadership. And the rosters will still need to be ratified by the entire House GOP, but typically the conference approves whatever the steering committee recommends. Just the fact that they're putting them back in motion and on committees is frightening enough. But the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is as a Georgian, is on the Homeland Security Committee,
she's like a literal threat to Homeland.
Yeah.
Security.
And probably one of those who really is moving to get the Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas out of his job. They've been talking about that for a while, ever since Republicans won their slim majority. They've been talking about it. So we'll see what happens. The Golden State Warriors went to visit the White House to celebrate their title after refusing to go to visit in 2017 and 18. And why was that? Well, they didn't like the guy who was in the White House at the time. And so now they're much more comfortable with the president, Joe Biden, as well as they say their number one fan, and that is Vice President Kamala Harris. They made their triumphant return to the Biden White House this week, and they were in town to play the Wizards at Capital One Arena before pulling up to the White House today to commemorate their fourth championship in 8 years. The Warriors beat the Celtics in 6 games during the last NBA Finals in 2022. Of course, it's the first time Curry and the Warriors have been back since Barack Obama was president. They publicly feuded with Donald Trump after their championship in 2017 and 18. And the vice president introduced the team, and they gifted her with a custom 49 jersey in honor of her being the 49th vice president in U.S. history. I also saw a number 1 jersey that may have been given to her. The 46 and the number 1, 46 for Biden and number 1 for Harris.
Oh, that's cool.
That was very cool. Yeah, huh? And she and her husband are that was part of their date night, was to go to some of the games.
Must be nice being a politician from a state with a winning team. Very nice. I imagine JB has a very hard time.
Well, I'm not sure how many teams are coming out of Delaware. So, but at least he's able to welcome them in. So we appreciate that. All right, Khameron, we're going to close this out. And there are a couple of things I wanted to ask Damon about, but we'll hold on to that for another day. Khameron, as we are still in trending, do you have anything you want to announce? Any projects?
Oh, nothing new. Just still working on the documentary. Still on track to bring things to bring a bunch of interviews together. Still on track to release this fall. Not taking on any new projects until that much is done. But if you are in Chicago, if you frequent Chicago, if you're going to be in Chicago late January, you should come to the Goodman Theater's production of Tony Stone, written by.
I want to see that. I heard the ads, and I this is a story that I'm fascinated by. But if you could tell people a little bit about it, I really want to come to town to see it.
Oh, sure, yeah. Tony Stone began playing in the. She began playing in the Negro Leagues, and she is considered one of the greatest female athletes to ever play baseball. Some would say that she would be the first and the best, but Tony Stone was a decorated athlete of multiple disciplines. She was a championship figure skater, championship track runner, and testament to her skill is after Hank Aaron went on to go pro, she replaced him at second base. So she's pretty good at her at what it is that she does. And my colleague, my dear friend Lydia Diamond, adapted her story into a stage play at the Goodman Theater.
Well, tell Lydia I'm coming to town. I want to see this. I'm really excited about. I've been a Tony Stone fan since the first time I read about her, and I love the idea of bringing our Black history stories to the stage and to the screen.
And to the main stage, no less. So
yeah,
to the Goodman.
Yeah, and it's gotten great publicity too regarding it. So I'm going to be there and support your friend and the story. So very good, very, very good. One more thing about let's move to entertainment. And Mary J. Blige had a big birthday party in Hollywood and came out with all of her Hollywood friends dripping in diamonds for her 52nd birthday. She celebrated her big day, surrounded by friends like Usher, Queen Latifah, and Fat Joe. And she stole the show in a crystal-encrusted mini dress with sky-high hemline, pairing the plunging silver style, which was made in less than 24 hours, and heaping helpings of diamonds from Lorraine Schwartz and Pristine Jewelers. And adding, in addition to a trio of iced out chains, she also wore a pair of enormous diamond hoop earrings. I want those earrings, Mary J. And a smattering of sparkling studs, bracelets, and rings. And of course, what outfit would be complete unless you had a floor-length chinchilla coat and a bedazzled stilettos to finish off her birthday outfit. Happy birthday, Golden Girl, and many, many more. You're doing just fine, 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 fine. Woo! Appreciate you. We're going to close out with our daily inspiration, Yogi's Jewels. Be the ambassador of good news for the people around you. Well, you have done that, Khameron. You've given us some fine young women to learn more about and to root for in their ongoing endeavors. Today with Jessica as well as Hanaya, I'm sorry. And also check out Khameron's story in the What You Need to Know newsletter. That is in which he talks about, the headline is, "What does it take to unite our voices in peace?" And working with Khameron at the University of Illinois at Chicago campus are on their way to doing good things. So we thank you for that, sir.
Oh, thank you.
All right, everyone, have a good evening or afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And we appreciate it. And we'll see you again soon. Take care. Aloha.